Good morning, everybody. I'm Libby Ulrich with NSAI Coffee Break, and we are kicking off Season 2 with none other than Christian singer-songwriter artist Matthew West.
Thanks for
How
having
are you this morning?
I'm great. It's good to be here today.
Awesome. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I love talking about songwriting, and
Yeah.
I love what NSAI does, so this will be good.
Cool deal. And you've been on the road a bit.
Yeah.
K-Love Cruise, well, that's not on the road, but
Right.
in an ocean.
Yeah, I'm just suffering from my art in the Bahamas. Yeah, I feel like I'm always on the road in some capacity. So especially when you put a record out, that sort of begins the mad dash, traveling for, we put a record out in September of last year, and then literally I think the day after the record came out, we started a 36 city tour. So we've had a little time off for the holidays, which is nice, but 2018 is going to be a busy year on the road, and so I'm actually enjoying some of my days before the chaos begins, just here in Nashville and being here on the road, doing a lot of songwriting, which is really where I love to be. No offense to being on the road, but I love being home writing songs.
In that community of songwriters.
Oh gosh, yeah. It fuels me and just it energizes me, whereas going on the road can suck the life out of you.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like that hour on stage or however long you're on stage is the same rush and same energizing feeling.
Invigorating, I'm sure.
Yeah, just like writing songs, but it's the travel, it's the time away from my wife and kids. All of that stuff is what can kind of make you long for not just Music Row, but for your own bed too.
Exactly.
So.
Does your family ever travel with you?
They do. In fact, for the last 4 years, my wife and I, we decided to homeschool our daughters so that we could do just that.
Nice.
And that was incredible. And so my kids know their way around a tour bus more than most kids, and they saw the entire country, and we've got incredible memories. But our homeschool work started to get, I was like, man, I'm not sure, Dad. I was worried that I was gonna screw them up. And we were hiring tutors for every subject, because she'd come to me with these questions and I'm like, what grade is this? And so we decided to put them back in an awesome school in Nashville, and so they're not able to travel with me quite as much. But if my concert bookings should ever involve a state fair or an amusement park, which a lot of times
amusement park,
then they're like, hey Dad, I think I need to go with you to this Disney show or whatever. So they still come with me quite a bit.
Awesome. And they've experienced it, which is great too.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is I've always wanted, selfishly I've always hoped that my family would view what I do with music as sort of a family cause, that we're all invested in it. And I don't know, in my mind it would make it feel like when Dad leaves, maybe they'd have a greater understanding and go, hey, he's going to do something that matters. But at the end of the day, kids just want their dad home too. You know what I mean? So even if you feel like, I'm traveling for this noble cause to encourage people with music, man, your kids just want you home. So, but I do think traveling around the country just made them part of it. In fact, my oldest daughter just turned 12 years old, and she's already told me that she wants to come out and sell my merch on the road.
That's awesome.
She's like, Dad, do you think I could do a summer job where she's like, now how much do you pay the people who sell your t-shirts? What can I make in a day?
She's a negotiator.
Dude, she's already so it's kind of fun to see them, the fact that my daughter even knows the term merch. It's so funny to me.
She's been doing her research.
Exactly. So I took him with me. I took my youngest with me to a show that I played Saturday night in Atlanta. And I had a friend go up in the concourse, and I said, my daughter and her little friend, they came with me, and I said, I'm going to give you some money and you can go buy some merchandise, and I figured they want to get a t-shirt or something. And so somebody from my management company walked them up there with my credit card, and they came back and they bought merch from all the other artists. I was like, hey, why don't you support Dad's cause a little bit?
Right?
And they were rocking all this swag from all these other artists. I'm like, I should have specified only Matthew West merch.
Right. Matthew West, then everyone
Yeah,
else.
they don't think it's cool to wear dad shirts and stuff like that. But
they're gonna appreciate it
someday.
They will.
If I sell enough T-shirts to pay for their college, then they'll appreciate it.
Then they'll be wearing it to
Exactly,
college.
exactly.
So let's jump in.
Yeah.
No pun intended. All in.
We're going all in.
Yeah. Your latest record is
right.
amazing.
Thank you.
First of all, what inspired this record?
Well, I started writing the songs for this record at the beginning of 2017. I had the opportunity to have this extended period of time, about 6 weeks, at this cabin that was actually built by Alan Jackson, incredible songwriter in his own right, and he built it on his property that he used to live on, and he built it right on the river in the back of his property. And when he sold this property, he sold it to some people that I know, and they had always mentioned to me, hey, if you ever want to go back to that cabin, I guess Alan built it for his own songwriting at the time, and they always just invited me to go out there and write if I ever wanted a little retreat. And so I took my friends up on this, and they said, you have it. And so for 6 weeks straight, I would drop my daughters off at school early, and then I would head to this cabin. And in my mind, I would pretend that I was, just, out in Colorado somewhere, but I was really 20 minutes away from home. So every day I would just spend just kind of having this, more than just a musical retreat, it was just a personal retreat. I'm somebody that I'm always surrounded by people. I'm always engaged in conversation. My business is words, and whether I'm talking or singing or songwriting. And so I find that it's like really essential for not just for my creativity, but for my whole life, to have those moments where I deliberately force myself to shut down and be quiet. Yeah, be quiet, reflect. Solitude, silence, those things that make us uncomfortable, why we would turn the TV on, or why we would, put our, iPods on or listen to podcasts. No offense, which I love this. Everybody should listen to this.
But still, it's hard as a creative person. You want that inspiration, but it's when you have to limit yourself at some point to really focus.
Yeah, to hear your own
things done.
Hear your own voice too, and to think about your life, and so I did that for 6 weeks, and just spent a lot of time in the quiet, and then I started writing songs out of that. And it's no mistake that some great inspiration came by forcing myself to do that. And so that's become a tradition for me. Really, all of my albums, my last 4 albums, have come out of these seasons where I'll go and retreat and really have this intensive season. And so that's where the songs came out of. The theme was really just out of kind of some personal prayer time, where I felt like those 2 words kept resurfacing in my journaling, in my mind, was all in. And I was like, those are 2 tiny words, but when you put them together, it's a mighty message that I felt like God was just putting on my heart to say, man, this is the season of your life. Don't take it for granted. Your relationship with your wife, your kids, the world around you, just that reminder that we're not promised a single breath or a single second or a single day. So I want to go all in and reach the end of my life with no regrets. And so I think the songs on this album are really, from top to bottom, they're charged with that 2-word mission of okay, how can I go all in? And so what happened was, every day I would begin by asking that question to myself, and I would write in my journal, okay, what are the areas of my life where maybe I'm phoning it in, or where I could be giving more, but I'm playing it safe? Is it in areas of generosity? Is it in my relationship with my wife? How can I go all in and be her champion? Man, she's championed me for 15 years. How can I be her cheerleader? My daughters, and on and on. And so the songs really, in large part, were in response to the answers I found to those questions, of the parts of my life that, if I'm being honest with myself, and we all have parts of our lives at any given day where we're tempted to coast or go through the motions. And so this album fired me up because it was answers to my own questions.
That's great. And it is easy to be that way when things get comfortable and when they are good, to kind of just be like, oh, everything's great, I can just sit back and relax. But I think that it's great that you're sharing this message of really investing in every area of your life that God intends for you.
Yeah, every aspect. I think that's even as a songwriter, I can get, once you find a recipe that works, you can kind of get comfortable and go, okay, I know how to write a hit. I know how to push this button, and I know how to make the melody do this, and the lyric, I know what kind of lyric is going to move the needle or whatever. And there's something about those retreats that I take where I feel like I kind of strip myself of all of that and stop, resting in whatever the safety is of what I think I know works. Because I think when you do that, your songwriting can get stale and stagnant. And so that's been exciting for me too, just to see both the messages in my lyrics are illustrating my desire to go all in.
Yeah.
But also just, I feel like there's a breath of fresh air musically that comes from removing myself from the safety nets that I would typically rest in.
And you just answered my next question. I was on Instagram.
I researched your questions beforehand.
You knew before this interview.
Yes.
You're asking a lot of your fans and your followers to share what it means to be all in their lives. And so, can you expand more on what it means to be all in as a songwriter and as a musician?
Yeah.
Whether you're writing by yourself or if you're co-writing, what is?
Yeah, I think the fan involvement part has been a big part of my overall creative expression from the beginning, and it's really steeped in the idea that for me as a fan, growing up and watching my favorite artists or bands get more and more popular, I would always felt like I noticed, this was even before social media was as prevalent as it is now, but I always felt like the bigger the artist got, the more separation they would have from the people who got them there, or their fans. And now social media's kind of done away with a lot of that, but even still, really, a lot of the social media activity for artists can still be very surface. That's not, it's promotional, it's just keeping fans educated, but not necessarily engaging in
having a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and obviously there's part of that with all my social media stuff too. We're promoting and telling you about my music, and that's how it works. But I've always just had this kind of desire to make sure, whether it's me, no matter how many shows I do, still going out to sign autographs after a show, or just caring about people's stories, that's become a big part of it. So the last several years, I've actually given people the chance to share their story with me, and I've collected 40,000 and counting, just stories from all across the country and all around the world of people sharing literally from even some of the most broken chapters of their stories. And a lot of those people's stories have actually come with me to the cabin when I have those retreats and inspired a lot of my songs. And so when I put a record out like All In, my desire then is to not just put a nice song out, that goes on the radio, but to, in the hopes that we can kind of have a deeper dialogue. And that's one of the neat things about being an artist and not just a songwriter. I think when I've got my songwriter hat on and I'm writing for another project, it's like every writer's fighting for their 3 minutes of expression on another record. And so it's made me really appreciative for the chance to create,
to do your own.
Yeah, to create a message that goes from top. There you go. Some more visibility.
Yes.
But that's been the cool thing, is to go, okay, I'm going to make this statement, and this record's all about going all in. And I'm leading by example, talking vulnerably about the areas where I want to go all in. But I'm hoping to have that dialogue with people on a deeper level. And so we'll do things like that, encouraging people to say, okay, examine your own life today. What's an area of your life where you could be going all in?
Exactly.
I think music can do that. Music can. My brother said once about some of my songs, he said, your songs are a hug and a punch. And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, it's like they sound encouraging, but they also kind of hit you in the gut a little bit, because it makes you
think. Tough love.
Yeah, thinking about areas of your life where you need to go all in. That's not easy to do, but it's necessary to do. And so we've done things just encouraging people to, we do this devotional series where we've got 40,000 or 35,000 people that receive a weekly email from me that it's just a little devotional, just encouraging them to go all in right now. So it's been fun. But I think your question was how to go all in as a songwriter.
Yeah, what does that mean, as a creative person with this? Because, a lot of these songs on this record are all very personal to you.
Yeah, more so than in the past, because for the last few years I've been writing other people's stories. So I think for me as a songwriter, the biggest thing is just not settling and not resting on what I know has worked. And that's something I've realized over time, is just going, man, if you have a song that becomes a hit, you're like, okay, well, how do I do that again? And that can be just a rabbit trail that, or a wild goose chase, or whatever animal analogy you want to use. It's just been the desire for me to just never get comfortable. So for a great example would be, I started writing songs by myself predominantly.
Okay.
And I was having a lot of success with these 100%ers. And then I started to kind of go, I think I kind of liked the thought that they were 100%ers. Mm-hmm. And I started to see that in me, that I wondered if I would even be able to be objective and go, hey, just because I wrote this song by myself, does that mean this is the best this song could be? Mm. And so the pendulum was swinging, where I was co-writing a lot, and then I went and had this season where I was like, man, I wrote these songs by myself, and they're some of my biggest songs, so I'm just going to keep doing that. Yeah. But then I started to sense that in me, where I was like, I think I'm starting to like it too much that I wrote it by myself. So with this record, just as an example, I just literally said, I'm seeking community more than ever, and I'm going to fight against that. And I need to be okay with splits, and I need to be okay with the business side of it looking different, because I want to make the best record I can make. And I got to realize that musically, I may have some areas of weakness where I need to be stretched. Lyrically, maybe this song's got me stuck, but, calling, some of my favorite songwriters into the room, it's like, that's what I was craving. And so I think that's just one indication of, like, going all in as a songwriter just means, like, at every turn, examining your motives, writing like crazy, but never getting locked into one set
Getting
form.
Out of your comfort zone.
I think so. I think that's important. Some people like their routine. And I have my routine within that, but I think it's important to maybe have a baseline routine. Mm-hmm. One, just to be prolific. That's the kind of writer I am. I want to be writing every day. I love that. But then two, just not falling in love with your own words so much to where you're not able to see, hey, I think collaboration would actually strengthen this song or this project or this season of my life.
Do you have a specific story of a co-write for one of the songs on this album where you learned something through another writer that you collaborated with? Yeah,
in fact, I got to brag on. So I've had the chance to start. I've got a joint venture with Combustion Music, and Chris Farron and I have been longtime friends and partners together. Mm-hmm. And he's started giving me the opportunity to, if I discovered, some young talented writers, we can sign them. And so I signed this young songwriter, producer from Michigan named AJ Pruz. Okay. And everybody's going to be hearing about AJ real soon, because this guy, he actually came and auditioned for my band. But I just could tell, his musicality, I was like, this guy's a songwriter. So he started sending me some tracks he'd written, and I was so impressed. Like, I felt like he's like a young Ryan Tedder. And so a great, addition to this record was I literally just set him up at the cabin with me. And I said, here's the deal. You're coming out. I want you to bring tracks. I want you to inspire me. And he did. And we literally wrote 13 of the 14 songs together.
Wow.
So whereas I went from a season where my last record, I wrote all but one song, I think, by myself, I deliberately moved against that. And this kid came in and stretched me in ways musically that I needed to be stretched. And I think you can hear it in the record. I know my record label felt like that. At first they were like, so who's this kid you're having it? And I was like, just
go with it.
Just go with it, because I think, and sure enough, they started hearing the music, and it's like, okay, it was clear, hey, he was adding something. Sometimes it was a sound or a progression or an arrangement that wouldn't have been my natural instinct. And yet it set me free lyrically and melodically, or on the top line, to put my guitar down and just focus in on this aspect while he was building the track. And so that was really cool. And it was, I've had songs do well before, but my first single from this record was co-written with AJ, and AJ got his first #1. And it was And that's how I think of that song. Like, not that I got a number one, but like AJ got his first number one. And so it's been...
This has probably been a huge experience for him.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Tomorrow we're having a little number one party at the label, and he's gonna, you know, it's just cool to see that happen. So that would be one example of how, you know, musically being stretched as I'm writing songs and allowing somebody into my process and trusting that, like, trusting my instincts as a writer will stay intact and really actually be enhanced by this new, you know, kind of just flood of ideas coming from somebody else.
And you've got more collaborations on this record. You have some vocals behind Something Greater. Carrie Underwood.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, that was, man, that was such a thrill. Carrie, I'm a huge fan of Carrie Underwood. I mean, just as a singer, as a person, I mean, her husband, Mike, I mean, they're just like quality people. And so we've run into each other a few different times at a Preds game or...
But she's going back.
Yeah, I know, he's going back.
Awesome.
That's right, yeah. Or fundraisers. We've been at just some different fundraisers. And I had this song that I wrote that kind of talked about the first person, my journey to Nashville, and kind of the aha moments along the way of just like the idea. I mean, the idea for the song is in the title. There's something greater happening here, right? Something greater. And the idea was, there's a line in the song that says, and I thought I moved to Nashville just to sign a record deal. And it's talking about the day that I went to Starstruck Studios on Music Row to audition for a record deal. And I met my soon-to-be wife that day. And so I always joke that I got a wife and a record deal in the same day. But I signed with that label. I began dating this girl, Emily. And the line says, one day we were strangers. Ain't it crazy how a single moment changes life as you know it. And now we got the same last name. I thought I was moving to Nashville just to sign a record deal, but my reason changed when I saw her face. And then the last verse kind of sums it up on a whole new level of saying, 6 pounds, 10 ounces, I'm holding perfect in a little pink blanket. And I thought I moved to Nashville just to sign a record deal. Just that idea of like, man, when we step into God's plan for our lives, like we set ourselves up for a lifetime of these aha moments of like, oh, I was heading in this direction thinking I was going here for this reason. Yeah. And then look at how much amazing things have happened. And I just felt like maybe that would resonate with Carrie for some reason. And so my publishing company sent that over to her management and just said, do you think Carrie would want to sing on this with me? And she said, yeah. And she showed up at the studio and we hung out for about an hour and a half, although it probably took her 10 minutes because she's so good. Yeah. And she just sounded amazing and took the song, in my opinion, to a new level. And the cool thing about it was, it's not like her name is not on it doesn't say like featuring Carrie Underwood. And I just thought it was important. Sometimes I get annoyed when I see like you try to use somebody's name to sell more records.
Right.
And I liked the idea of people just hearing the record and going, I think I know.
Because I did. I heard, I was like, there's someone that I know behind this song, but I can't pinpoint it. And then I saw a social post that she had put up with the record, and I was like, wait, that's what it is. So I went back and listened. I was like,
yeah, she and
so cool.
The first way that we connected was I was nominated for an American Music Award a few years ago, and I went to the awards in LA, and I felt like such a fish out of water because, you know, like the Christian music category, it's just kind of maybe not announced during the show, and we're sitting there, and there's you know, Miley Cyrus and all these big time stars and Justin Timberlake, and I tweeted a joke. I just said, Justin Timberlake just told me that my song was his favorite or whatever, and I was like, but not really. And I get a response while I'm sitting in the theater at the American Music Awards from Carrie Underwood, and she said, well, Justin Timberlake might not like that song, but I love it. And I was like, first of all, I thought this is a fake account. And I was like, no, that's Carrie Underwood. And so that was how we first connected. And so when she just sang on that song, I was like, man, that's so classy of her to do that. She didn't have to do that. She had just come in the night before from a show. And so I'm forever grateful for that. So I sent flowers over to her management company with a copy of the record just saying, I'm grateful. And So that was just a neat moment. But even collaborators too, like, I mean, Ashley Gorley, who I know is an NSAI member, and I mean, a hero in the songwriting community.
Talented guy.
I mean, and our kids go to the same school, and he and I have been buddies, and so we've written lots of songs together, and so every time I make a record, I'll call him and say, hey, let's write at least one song together. And so what's funny is we wrote a song on this record called One Song. And it's one of my favorite moments. Yeah, he's just got this incredible, like, I don't know. I tell him every time we write a song together, there'd be that one line that's my favorite line, and it's not my line, it's his. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dang it, how do you do that? Because I want my line to be the favorite line. You know what I mean? But he's so good, and why would I not seek out, those kind of writers jumping in and working? I mean, that's amazing, so I pinch myself, just the creative community that I get to be around, and I love it.
Well, I'm sure they're grateful, of course, to be working with you as well.
Oh, I hope so, but it's
embracing your community.
Yes.
Full on, so that's great.
Yeah, and that's all in too, I think just, and embracing this season where I've been given a creative voice, like, I think now more than ever, it's like, man, I get on stage, and it was last week or 2 weeks ago, my band and we got off the stage, and it was after having a 2-week break, and I was just like, I said to the guys in the locker room, I was like, that was so amazing. Like, I just get so excited now and maybe it's just because I've been through seasons where I thought maybe it was over, and nothing's come easy for me. So I've always wanted to appreciate it and felt like, hey, if this is my last concert, almost like the theme of the song that we wrote with Ashley, says if I only had one song, am I going to phone it in? No, I'm going to go all in. And that's the message and that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Like, when I step into a writing room, I'm like, holy cow.
And see, that's awesome. I can tell that, both songwriting and performing are so important and fun to you. So being able to switch off, I mean, that's great.
And I realized that the touring side of thing is a season for me. Like, it's funny because I keep wondering, I think every time I make a record, I'm like, well, when is my record label going to decide that I'm done? Or, like, I think every artist thinks like that sometimes. Like, in the back of your mind, that's what drives you, Like, they said about Tom Brady at the Super Bowl that, like, he still sees himself as a 6th round draft pick. Meaning, like, he'll never forget the fact that he was picked last, right? And I think that's interesting because I felt like that a lot. I was rejected for 3 years while I was in town, and that's really what drove me to develop my songwriting skills. And I'm thankful now that my artist career didn't really take off guns blazing. It was a slow, steady climb, but that slow, steady climb taught me that I need to build a solid foundation for my artistry by building a solid foundation as a songwriter and developing my skills. And so that's the exciting thing for me, is always keeping a foot in the creative songwriting, like, side of the career, and not only writing songs for my records. Because at the end of the day, a prolific songwriter is not going to be fulfilled just making a record once every year and a half,
right,
which is all I would get to do. So now I get the chance to write songs for other projects and continue to have creative outlets, even if I'm not putting a record out in that moment. So someday maybe that's what I'll be doing full time. Maybe I won't make records anymore. I don't know. But as long as I get to do both. We hope you do. I love it. As long as I get to do both, it's amazing.
What's it like writing for country and Christian? How do you choose, what song fits what genre? If you're going to keep a song for yourself, if you're going to let it go to another project?
Well, writing for other projects, kind of, as I said, started by me being rejected as an artist. And now I'm thankful for that, because I've got all these creative outlets, which I didn't see at the time, but that's another something greater concept of, like, oh, now I get it. So I think when I'm writing for other projects or other genres, it's very deliberate. And so there tends to be, there's really only rare occasions where I'm like, I finish a song and I'm like, oh, should I keep this or should I have somebody else record it? And, like, a great example is just when I'm writing with for another artist. A lot of times it's with another artist. So especially in the contemporary Christian music. So like this morning I'm writing with Mark Hall from Casting Crowns. And so
You've done a lot of work with him.
We've done a lot of work together. And he's been very gracious to invite me into his creative process. And to get invited into that is something that I don't take lightly, you know, but when I'm in that room, so it was just sort of this impromptu 3-day songwriting camp with him this last few days, and it's just we're writing his ideas, you know, so there's never like a question of we get the song done and I'm like, oh, I should take that song for myself. It's more I'm there as a facilitator. I've got a different hat on, and so there's never really, you know, there's only been a couple songs that I've written and been like, oh, I should have kept that one because it was a hit for somebody else or whatever.
Right.
In the country side of things, again, it's very deliberate. My process is totally different. So
really?
That's one of the reasons why for my records, I go to the cabin. I have this 6-week retreat. It's got to be different because otherwise, if you write for all these other projects, when you finally turn to write for your own, you can lose. It's like, well, what do I sound like? And I want my records to be definitively mine. But then I also want to keep developing the ability to shift gears and write a song for another project. So like when I'm writing country and for other projects, I'm on the row. I'm at Combustion where I've been for a long time. I'm up in the writing rooms or I'm at another publishing company and chasing it down and finding out who's looking, even though some people are really dominated by that. Like so-and-so's going in, this is what they need. I can do that, and I like and thrive off of assignments, but I also just am constantly storing country hooks that I feel like are solid.
You can use later down the road.
Yeah. And sometimes it'll be so I just had a cut with a group called Low Cash.
Oh, yeah.
That and I just read this article, they talked about our song, which was cool, so I'm hoping that means it might be a single, but
rooting.
But it's a great example of like the title and the hook is very autobiographical, but it felt like too country to be on my record. Okay. So I saved it. I didn't write it. And the song was called Kissing a Girl Goodnight. And the whole concept was how, and you can see why if you listen to Christian music, you'd be like, yeah, that hook won't work on Christian radio. Yeah. Just because sometimes they're kind of weird about like relation. But the theme of the song is very like, family and heart. It's like
conservative for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the idea, the hook idea was, I just came into the room with my co-writers like, when I was a teenager, my whole mission every day was that at the end of the day, I'd be kissing a girl goodnight. And then I get married and I'm like, I remember like being a newlywed going, I can't believe I'm kissing this girl goodnight. And then now I got 2 little girls. And now my whole mission, and I was just laughing, thinking like, my whole life has been really one mission, and kissing a girl goodnight.
Family man, yeah.
Except now they're 12 and 9, and I get to kiss them goodnight, and that's my favorite part of the day. Is when they wrap their arms around me. So those are good ideas of just like, I feel like I know where to put that hook, but it doesn't fit on my record. And hopefully there'll be an artist in this other genre that can hear the heart behind that and feel like it's right for their record. But you know how hard it is to get cuts, outside cuts. Yeah. I just I keep chasing it down, and I'm not able, because of my touring and my records, I'm not able to put a tenth of the time in that some of my favorite country songwriters are. So I have to set my expectations really accurately. Do you know what I mean? And so realizing that, hey, if these guys are sometimes doing 2 a days, 5 days a week, and I'm playing 100 shows, and then I'm writing projects for Christian music, and then there's maybe 15-20% of my time is able to go to these other projects. So I set personal goals that are aggressive, but still sort of within the realm of...
So you don't completely limit yourself.
Yeah, otherwise it'll always be FOMO. It'll always be like, oh man, like I wish I could have gotten on that record, and I'm all bummed out. But it's like, wait a minute, you just got to make your own record. And you just got to sing for people, and you just got to write a song for Casting Crowns. Like, these awesome things have happened, and it's just human nature to think about
to want more.
The thing you weren't a part of. And for a long time, that would bother me, but I feel like I'm learning to kind of rest in the creative opportunities that are coming my way and try to be really smart with my time.
and you're promoting this on the road as well. It's called the Roadshow Tour.
Yeah, we're leaving for a tour called the Roadshow. It's like in Christian music, there's a lot of there's a few of these bigger collaborative tours. I don't know what the equivalent would be in country, but I mean, although I saw like Luke Bryan's lineup for his summer tours, like Sam Hunt. I mean, it's like stacked. So this is kind of that for Christian music. It's where
got Natalie Grant going
Natalie
along
Grant,
with you.
and for King and Country, and Zach Williams, who's blowing up. So it'll be like all of us together. We can play arenas, but on our own, we would be maybe not in that big of a room. So we're doing 23 cities starting February, which will be a lot of fun.
What date does it start?
It starts February 16th.
Okay.
Yeah, so that'll go through the end of March, and then we're going to be playing a lot of summer festivals, and then a fall headlining tour. So it's going to be a busy year.
It is.
And hopefully I'll write a bunch of songs, in throughout the year as well, if I can. So.
Well, before we finish out, I want to take a moment to ask some questions that were submitted by a couple of our viewers.
Cool.
And then I want to briefly mention your book because obviously...
Yeah, I should
you
move
have
my
that as
coffee
well.
mug out of the way.
Hello,
so...
my name is...
What? There it is.
Is Matthew West.
You see that? Should we do a boomerang like that?
We should later. That'd be perfect, actually. Great promo.
Do I get to keep the mug, by the way, or is
Absolutely.
is this available for purchase in the lobby?
It is available for purchase.
Or could we work a trade where I'll give you the book, and if you don't like it, you can resell it on eBay, and I'll keep. Okay.
In the case.
Sorry. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I love this, and I love that you're able to be here and
this
talk
is great.
songwriting and NSAI and everything.
Yeah, and
so,
I think your parents might be watching. Is this?
My mom's about to comment probably.
Are we thanking
Mom likes to comment.
your dad for the coffee? That's what I heard.
Thank you. Okay, so my dad knew I was starting off season 2, and him and his dental office sent me a bag of coffee, and they all signed the card, and they were like, "Great, good luck."
The dental office?
The dental office sent me a bag of coffee with the card.
Wouldn't the dental office shy away from things that could stain our teeth? Or do they do that knowing that whitening is big business?
Oh, man. Dad, Mom, you're gonna have to comment for Dad on your answer for that one. But
maybe I should go see your dad.
He would love that.
Yeah.
His name's Ted.
Ted.
Ted. Hey,
Ted the dentist.
Yeah, Ted the dentist.
All right.
Ted the dentist is also a farmer, by the way, too. Yeah.
He's
a farmer.
bilingual. He's bivocational.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Great dude. So,
well, thanks for the coffee.
Thanks
Ted.
for the coffee. We're loving it.
Very, very.
Really good house blend.
Very much so. House blend.
House blend.
It tasted like it. Yeah,
Prime.
I like it.
All right.
Okay,
so
questions?
Julie Bell says the industry keeps changing. What's the most successful way you've seen new artists in your genre and also in worship music find opportunities to write, co-write, and gain access to publishers, labels, etc.?
Oh, that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think social media has really kind of taken a pencil eraser to the lines in a lot of ways. I'm looking all over social media. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'll find independent songwriters and artists that are posting their stuff online, and if I like it, I'll send them a message and say, hey, I'd love to hear more stuff. You know what I mean? Some of the people that I have signed, though, like I signed one writer who I told you auditioned for my band, and so that you can't quite draw a recipe up like that. But then
it's so organic. I think
it's
that's
so organic.
I think it's the trick,
and that's probably what you guys have seen across
Absolutely.
the board, and what you'd encourage young. It's really just being present, being around, and getting great, and like being prolific, forcing yourself to like constantly beat your last song with your next song. But being visible is important. Like, so I just signed a young artist writer named Leanna Crawford from Seattle, Washington. And what did she do? She made herself visible. She sang Without Fear, and I happened to be at this open mic thing, and everybody at this open mic night was scared to go up first. And finally, she just, on her own, I watched this kid get up. She borrowed somebody's ukulele and started singing. And she was the first one, and she got up there, and it was effortless. And I took a video of it, and I sent it to my wife. I said, this is going to be our daughter's new favorite. And so I started flying her to Nashville. We've written all these songs and put out her first EP. And so I really think there's something about like being visible. I think Nashville is such an awesome place to be, going to writers' nights and getting up at open mic nights as much as possible. But at the same time, finding people like me who I don't believe in the line. Like, I don't, like, if Julie's got songs, like, hit me up. Send them to me. I want to hear them. And I want to, I've had champions in my life that listened to my songs before they probably should have been listened to, but that saw something in me.
Right.
And I want to be that for others. And so,
awesome.
I think you'll find that a lot. Like, if you hit somebody up, like,
if you keep putting yourself out
Yeah.
there, just, I mean, for the sheer practice of communicating with
Yes.
someone in the industry and getting to know people. And
But also, don't hit them up if you've only written a song.
right.
And you're not working hard at it first. You know what I mean? Because someone like me is going to say immediately, great, what else you got?
It's kind of like the show and tell.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. But you have to have something to follow up with.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you one song, but this means I got 10 more that I'm working on too. That's when I start to see, okay, this person's starting themselves. They're not waiting for someone like me to, I can help take it to the next level maybe, but I want to.
We're not waiting for someone to find them. They're
Yeah.
looking for the opportunity
Yep.
to make themselves a better songwriter, artist, whatever that
That's
may
exactly
be.
right. Yeah.
Great question, Julie.
Yeah, very good.
Hannah Swan. Dear Matthew, I'm a 24-year-old musician, songwriter, and worship leader planning to make the move to Nashville from Indiana to pursue a career in music. If you could go back and set 3 goals for your 24-year-old self to find success in the Christian music genre, what would those 3 goals be?
Man, that's a good question.
It is.
Okay, goal number 1 would be to, I would have, these are the things that I was doing anyways, without maybe knowing that they were my goals. 1, I was writing every day, even if it was just putting down some title ideas on my journal, my phone. Number 2, I would say, networking, being in the room with as many writers as possible, and trying to get in the room with writers who I knew were farther along than me, but maybe they'd be willing to throw me a bone that day so that I could learn from them. Number 3, I would have told myself to be okay with your insecurity, but pretend it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Be in some ways, like,
push it in the corner somewhere and let it.
Because I think, like, I remember getting in rooms with people and being so aware of how good they were, and it, like, I don't know, sometimes it would make it hard for you to be on your A game because you're so, like, caught up in your own head versus just, like, when I'm at my best, I'm confident, even if still insecure. I'm always insecure, but, like, there's just this freedom to just, what about this?
To just embrace everything,
Yes.
embrace the fact that you're, being able to be creative with.
And not
another
worrying
writer.
about who's on the other couch, and being okay with the fact that, like, hey, that writer's better than me today, but I'm going to come back the next time and I'm going to blow them away with a line because I learned so much for how they approach it. So, those are the 3 things that off the top of my head, just writing every day, and in writing every day, being around people who know more than you, and surrounding yourself with people who are going to give you honest feedback. That's what I was very fortunate to have.
Okay.
I got my first publishing deal out of college. Like, it was 2 weeks from graduating, and I got a letter of intent from Word Music Publishing. And so from the very beginning, I had a champion. Her name was Cindy Wilt, who passed away to cancer. So every time I'm on Music Row, I think of her, and I think of how she championed me, but I also think of how hard she was on me, my first songs. And if you don't have somebody sitting down and going, hey,
honest with you.
like, if, and she would say, like, wait, you're trying to write for this genre. Are you even listening to this genre? Because this song doesn't sound like that. So really being a student of it, like the young writer I told you about earlier, AJ could sing you could mention any song that's in the top 50 on Spotify, and he could sing every hook. Like he's a student. Like every morning when I go in to write with him, he's listening down to the day's top 50. And so there's a researcher in him, because that's when it becomes, you just can't write for something if you never listen to it. Who am I to try to write a country song today if I couldn't tell you what songs are working right now? But I know them. I sing them. I listen to them. I know what's going on. Same with the Christian genre. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not going to try to write a record for Drake because I'm not listening to Drake. You know what I mean? I don't want, but if I was, I'd be a student of it. You know what I mean? So that's maybe 4 things I just gave to
happening. Yeah, an extra tip.
A bonus tip.
Yeah. Well, where can people get this?
One more thing.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
The most important thing is, to me, is authenticity and honesty. And I'm not always there, but I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to the core of like finding a unique voice that is my story, because I think we can write songs that we're trying to be what works. And it's about getting those pop sensibilities or whatever sensibilities for whatever genre you want to write, worship, country. It's about getting the hours in and the training done so that you're not thinking about those things as much. You're just letting it flow. But when you're writing lyrics, you're coming from, if you can come from the most honest place possible, I've seen hands down, those are the songs that resonate with people the most. And I could point to the ones that worked because I was being the most vulnerable. I think the audience felt that. And then they allowed themselves to be vulnerable and let that song be part of their life. And then it created a forever bond. So,
well, where can they find All In that does just that?
Wherever fine music is sold. So, no, it's on Spotify, iTunes. Yeah. It's like crazy. Retail is different now. You know what I mean? So if you still walk into like a Christian bookstore, you can find it there. But mostly online, Amazon, all those things. So
fantastic.
Shazam. Whatever, Rhapsody. Yes. I don't ever want to leave any of them out because they all support me. So.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us. Go to MatthewWest.com to get information on where you can find the record, this book, too. Hello, My Name Is, and then also the roadshow tour dates so you can see him live perform your favorite All In songs. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.